Welcome back to the Revive Then Thrive podcast, your safe haven for relational and emotional wellness and intergenerational healing. I'm your host, Hallelujah Adams, licensed marriage and family therapist and relational therapist. Today we're diving into an emotion that often takes center stage in conflict, but rarely gets the compassion it deserves: anger. This is episode 19, The Mask of Anger, What It's Hiding, and Why It Matters. Part of our series, The Heart Beneath the Habit, Understanding Emotions That Shape Our Connections. Let's start here. Anger isn't the problem. In fact, anger is often a signal, a clue, that something vulnerable underneath needs tending to. In EFT, and from an attachment perspective, we talk about primary versus secondary emotions. Primary emotions are raw, attachment-based, often painful: fear, shame, loneliness, hurt. Secondary emotions are protective: anger, irritation, sarcasm, numbness. So when anger shows up, especially in relationships, it's usually a mask, a cover for something much softer and more tender underneath. Let's explore how this plays out differently depending on your attachment strategies. Let's dive in together. Pursuers often use anger to protest disconnection. Their raised voice says, "Where are you? Do I even matter?" But what's underneath is usually hurt, fear of abandonment, or a longing to feel seen. Withdrawers, on the other hand, may not express anger, but they often carry a simmering internal frustration. This frustration may be directed at themselves. I can't ever get it right. Or at their loved one or partner. I'm going to get blamed again. Their anger protects them from overwhelm, and their silence can be a shield, not a shutdown of care. From a trauma-informed perspective, both responses make perfect sense. Anger helps create control in a moment that feels out of control, but it comes at a cost. It also creates distance, and that's where the problem begins. John Gottman's research teaches us that anger often morphs into destructive habits like criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, what he calls the 4 Horsemen. He also names emotional flooding, the state where we're so overwhelmed by anger or fear that we can no longer engage rationally. Here's the truth. When we're flooded, we're not fighting our partner. We're fighting for emotional survival. That's why noticing the anger before it explodes is key. Let's move into today's Relational Insight segment, where we connect theory to practice. Relational Insights 1. Pause and translate. When you feel anger rising, pause. Ask yourself gently, what is this anger protecting? Am I feeling unheard? Am I scared I'll be rejected again? Am I trying to get closer, but it comes out as pushing away? Try this reframe. Instead of saying, "I'm so mad you didn't call," try, "I felt really alone and anxious when I didn't hear from you." It's vulnerable, but it builds connection instead of distance. Relational insights 2. Track the somatic signals. From a somatic experiencing lens, the body will tell us when we're entering protective states like anger. Do you feel your jaw clench? Notice heat rising in your chest or face. Start pacing, fidgeting, or withdrawing. These are early cues that anger is building. Instead of ignoring them, listen. Pause. Breathe. Put your hand over your heart or your belly and ground into the moment. Relational insights 3. Repair with vulnerability. Here's the hard but healing move. Return with softness. In EFT, and from an attachment perspective, we call this a corrective emotional experience. Gottman calls these moments bids for connection and bonding moments. Try saying, I was angry, but underneath, I felt really scared you were pulling away. Or, I pushed you away because I didn't know how to say I missed you. These moments where we risk being known are what transform conflict into connection. Anger isn't the enemy. Anger often gets a bad reputation, but really it's a messenger. It tells us there's pain underneath that wants to be met with care. When we learn to turn toward the pain instead of away from it, we make space for healing. Because behind anger, there's almost always a bid for closeness, a cry for understanding, or a shield against shame. And you are allowed to soften, even here. Next week on the Revive Then Thrive podcast, we'll explore another common emotional survival response: numbness. In episode 20, when numb is the new normal, disconnection, and the freeze response, we'll talk about the neurobiology of emotional shutdown, why disconnection doesn't mean disinterest, and how to gently reawaken connection in yourself or a partner or loved one who's gone emotionally offline. Because healing happens even in the quietest places. Thanks so much for joining me today. If this episode helped you see anger in a new light, I'd love for you to leave a review or share it with someone who might need to hear it too. You can also find a companion meditation for this episode coming up on the Revive Then Thrive podcast YouTube channel. And remember, behind every hard reaction is a soft place longing to be seen. Until next time, I'm Hallelujah Adams. Be gentle with your anger and stay connected. Hugging your hearts, y'all. See you next time.